the very first parasha in the Torah, and there's quite a bit of information that is very important for us to know. There's so much information that we would actually need many weeks to cover just this one parasha. But I'm going to try to compress it all into one evening and talk about the most important points, even though there are quite a few in this parasha. The very beginning of Parashat Bereishit begins with a description of the creation. Bereishit bara Elokim et hashamayim et haaretz. That God creates the world in the beginning, and there is an order in which He did everything. And Rashi, the commentary Rashi, tells us that the Torah should have begun with Achodesh Hazeh Lachem Rosh Chodashim, with the first mitzvah. After all, the Torah is not a compilation of stories. The real purpose of the Torah is to communicate to us the mitzvot. What are our obligations as Jews? That's what the Torah really is. It happens to have additional information. It has the entire history of the Jewish people, the creation of the world too, but the most important part of the Torah is the mitzvot. That's the essence of the Torah. If that's the case, it should have begun with Achodesh Hazeh Lachem. Why did it begin with a description of the creation? So Rashi says, Ki koach ma'asav yigid le'amo. Kadosh Baruch Hu wanted to let know the entire world, but especially the Jewish nation, that I'm the boss. I created the world. I'm the one that therefore handed out the countries, and I'm the one that decided to give you Eretz Israel. So no one in the future should come and accuse you of stealing the land. I created the world. I gave out the land to whoever I wish. And that is why the Torah begins with a description of the creation and goes on to explain the various generations up until Am Yisrael evolves as a nation and receives the Torah. So this whole order, all these events are described in detail in order for everyone to be convinced that this was given to us by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The Ramban, Nachmanides, says, wait a minute, why not begin with Bereishit bara Elokim? I have a good reason why the Torah should begin with Bereishit bara Elokim and not with the Achodesh Hazeh Lachem. This is important information. Who created the world? I need to know that in the very beginning. What's wrong with talking about the creation? So the Ramban says what Rashi meant is as follows. In reality, there's so many secrets about the creation. There's so much information, so much data that we can not ever possibly understand, not ever possibly grasp. It's so beyond us that it would have been better to leave it out. We know very little. Even if you read Parashat Bereishit, the very beginning, some of it is mysterious. It's hard to figure out what is the Torah talking about. What's Tohu Vavohu? So because there's so much unknown, it should have been left out. So that's what the Ramban says. That's what Rashi meant when he says we should have begun with Achodesh Hazeh Lachem. But obviously there is great importance to telling us about the creation for other reasons too. Other than the reason that Rashi brings down, the commentaries explain Bereishit bara Elokim et hashamayim et haaretz is a very powerful statement that every Jew should be aware of. That in the very beginning, we need to know who created the world. There was no Big Bang. It didn't happen by itself. There was a master architect, a master engineer who put this place together. And that is a very important piece of information because that ties into our emunah. And in order to strengthen our emunah, that is the beginning of everything. So as a start, we need to know who created the world. Not only do we need to know, this piece of information will actually influence our lives. If a Jew, if an individual, even a non-Jew, is continuously aware that there is a creator, there is an entity out there that created this world, in other words, it's not hefker, you can't just do anything you want. Yesh din veyesh dayan. The consequences of these ideas, of having this thought, this faith, that there is a creator, it means that you cannot just do anything you want. Obviously, He has a purpose for all of this. And many people, of course, are uncomfortable with this idea. Scientists, who should be the first to admit that this is such a masterpiece, they don't always come to that conclusion, or they don't always admit it openly. Why? They're uncomfortable with it. It would obligate them to live a life with certain restrictions. They would not be able to fulfill all their desires. They would not be able to do everything they want to. By saying there's no creation, just everything is happening by itself, that means anybody can do almost anything he wants. The only reason we have law and order is to have order. laws created by human beings in order to maintain order. But a higher law, a law ordained by God? No. Who says there is such a thing, Chas v'Shalom? But if one were to be honest and to pay close attention just to his own body, forget about the big universe, one would see that everything is designed. Just looking at your fingers, according to the Kabbalah, we have 10 for a reason. Keneged Eser Sfirot, the 10 emanations of God. Why 10? Why not 9? Why not, oh well, let that be equal. 8. Why 10? There is a great detail in the construction of the human being, and the more so in the world. Look at all the detail. Look at all the lines in your hands. The lines are there for a reason too. It says a lot about the individual, about the personality of the person, about his mazal. There is tremendous amount of design in the creation of the human being. Every organ. Would anybody here volunteer to give up his liver? No. Why not? Because we know the liver has a purpose. That's what the doctors claim. That's what we've been taught in classes of anatomy of the body. And they can prove it. You can't live without a liver. Every organ, the only one they haven't figured out yet is the appendix. They've already figured out that we need our tonsils. They used to remove them. We know that everything that was created, from the smallest insect to the largest galaxy in the world, there's a purpose for it. It's designed. It's there for a reason. And since everything is designed, it has a purpose. The human being therefore has a purpose in this creation too. There was once a heretic, one who did not believe in the Torah, one who did not believe that God created the world, who confronted Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva, can you prove to me that God created the world? He says, it's obvious. He says, well, it's not obvious to me. So Rabbi Akiva asks him, tell me, who made your suit? He says, what do you mean, who made me the suit? The tailor. I don't believe you, Rabbi Akiva said. I don't believe you that you say that the tailor made the suit. Maybe you just found it somewhere by itself. He says, it's obvious the tailor made it. Well, just like it's obvious the tailor made your suit. Isn't it obvious that God created the world? Hashamayim mesaperim kevod el u'maaseh yadav magid arakia. The heavens tell the handiwork of Hashem. You can just see that He made, He created, He designed. And that's how he left this heretic. The students of Rabbi Akiva said, that's not a good enough answer. What do you mean it's obvious? Just like the tailor was obviously made, just like the suit was obviously made by a tailor, so was the world. What kind of an answer is that? So Rabbi Akiva said, it's very simple. Just like a house gives testimony that an engineer, a contractor built it, it says so. It gives testimony to that fact. The same is true with this world. It just gives testimony. The many, many details that we see could not have happened by themselves. It's just common sense. It's just logic. One who does not believe it, doesn't accept it, it is because he's trying to escape, accepting this important fact. The detail that we receive in the Torah about the creation, however, also serves for another purpose. The Torah went into some detail to describe to us what was created, because in the end, the most important part of creation is the human being. And we need to be reminded, we need to be told that the human being is here for a purpose. He wasn't placed here just to have fun in this great creation. The human being has a purpose in life. He has a job, Jew and non-Jew. And that is the meaning of the word Zeh Sefer Toledot Adam, when the Torah begins to describe or to summarize what is going on. Why is the Torah summarizing this? So Ben Azai, one of the rabbis, said, Zeh Sefer Toledot Adam, these words, this chapter, Ze Klal Gadol BaTorah. It's a very important, you saw the very important fundamental in the Torah. Just like Rabbi Akiva says, Ve'ahavta le'acha kamocha, Ze Klal Gadol BaTorah, love your friend as thyself. It's a very important klal because it leads to the fulfillment of all the mitzvot. Zeh Sefer Toledot Adam, Ze Klal Gadol BaTorah. This is a very important klal, a rule, a fundamental in the Torah, because it explains a lot. All the description, all this information given to us is to remind us that there is a tachlit, there is a purpose to all of this. We're here for a reason. Now, if we're here for a reason, wouldn't it make sense that we know what the reason is? When you buy a sophisticated machine these days, they give you a manual. They have to give you a manual. Now, many people don't read the manual. But the manual contains valuable information on how to run your dishwasher, your microwave, your computer. It's hard to figure out everything by yourself. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu also gave us, as we call it in Hebrew, Horaot Yatzran. He created the world. He had to somehow communicate to us what to do here. So to the Goyim, He gave Sheva Mitzvot B'nei Noach. Later on, next week's Parashat. He gives them 7 commandment basics. Just do this and you'll be okay. That's all you got to do. To Am Yisrael, a later point in time, He gives 613. This is what we're supposed to do. This is a map on how to guide ourselves in this world, in this creation. The human being is created at the very end, on the 6th day. So the commentaries tell us why He's the most important. Yeah, exactly. Because He's the most important, He's created in the very end. Why? Isn't the most important one created first? Everything else that was created in the world was created for Him. HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings Adam HaRishon at the very end. Here, ready-made. Go, enjoy it, use it. So the whole creation was there before Him because it's there for Him. Adam hu nezer habriah, He's the crown of creation. He's the most important part of creation. And everything in the world that we see somehow is to serve Him. Somehow it helps Him. The Midrash says, however, there's another reason why man was created at the end. She'im yidga'eh, if he becomes arrogant and he thinks highly of himself, he will be reminded, Hazvu bach lefanecha. The fly, the mosquito, was created before you. Don't think so highly of yourself. But the greatest emphasis in the beginning of Parashat Bereishit, given in the creation of man, is not so much about his purpose, that we don't see immediately. It's much more about how unique he is, how different he is from everything else that was created. Vayipach be'apav nishmat hayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu put into him a neshama, something that He did not put in the animal kingdom, not in the birds, not in the fish. That distinguishes him from everything else. Because after all, monkeys do look like human beings somewhat. What makes the human being really different? The neshama. Only the human being has something called the neshama. Now, what is the neshama? The neshama, the Zohar says, is a helek eloka mima'al. It is a part of Hashem. When you blow a balloon into a balloon, you're blowing a part of yourself into the balloon. Your air is going into the balloon. By pach be'apav, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu blew into the nostrils of the human being, He blew something from Himself. That is why the Zohar says, the neshama is a helek eloka mima'al. It's a part of God. Very simple. Now, since the neshama contained in the human body is a part of God, the human being is therefore composed of 2 parts. Half animal, half divine. Now, what happens when somebody is half-half? Well, let's take a look. The fish, because their element, their yesod, from what they are created from, is mostly water, they can only survive in water. They go out and breathe a little bit of air. They are mostly water, they need water. Birds are able to fly in the air because they have a concentration of the element of air. There's 4 elements: earth, water, fire, and air. And we all have different mixtures. The human being has all 4, of course. We all have all 4. But we have a tremendous amount of air and earth and water in us. And fire too. And because we have that much of each element, we need every one of the elements. We cannot be only in the water. We need air. We need to breathe. You see, every creature needs some element, depending what element is stronger in him. The fish's element is water, and therefore it needs water. You take him out of water, say, here's all the air. He needs the water. Everything in the world has a need for some element, or more than one element. The human being has a need for all 4. However, what did we just say? The human being has something else besides the 4 elements. He has a neshama. That neshama is something spiritual. Therefore, every individual in this world has a need to satisfy his neshama and his physical body. The physical body needs its food, its sleep, its rest. But there's a neshama there too that needs its own food. So every human being, naturally, by having a neshama, some sort of neshama, because there's a difference between Goyim and Jews, would automatically have to have a netiyah, an inclination, a desire for that which is spiritual, for that which is divine. The Jew's neshama is something completely different, and that is why it is much more attached to that which is spiritual than the goy. But there are some goyim, as I spoke about when I spoke about why a Jew cannot marry a non-Jew. There are some goyim that convert. There's something in their neshama, in their nefesh, that attracts them to that which is holy. So therefore, by reason that we have a neshama, we would have inclination to that which is spiritual and to that which is physical. That can cause confusion sometimes, because our body wants one thing and the neshama wants something else. So we're going to see what HaKadosh Baruch Hu does to help us in managing these conflicting desires. Before we get to that, the human being is also endowed with something else other than the neshama. Or actually, because he has the neshama, he has to be given something else in order to properly use the neshama. If you read Parashat Bereishit, you will be shocked. You will find the following words: that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu made the human being, He made him betzalmenu kidmutenu. Wow. Tzalmenu kidmutenu, loosely translated, means in our image, in our form. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has no image, has no form. What are these words? What do they mean? So the commentaries tell us, betzalmenu, the human being was given an image from above. Betzalmenu, not Hashem's image, our image, the heavenly image. The image or a similar image to what Malachim have. We don't walk on four, we walk on two. Our head is raised up, not down like animals. All our features are different. That's the tzelem. According to the Kabbalah, there's another tzelem. There's another tzelem that you may call the aura or something else that leaves the human body 30 days before he leaves this world. There's something else called the tzelem Elokim. Tzelem Elokim, the image of Hashem on us. And those who have that image, animals do not attack this human being because they fear him. If an animal attacks a human being, it's because that human being has no Tzelem Elokim on him. And he's therefore treating him as another animal. He's hungry. This is part of my diet. Later he finds out this doesn't taste like what I'm used to. So let's go maybe. That's a different kind of Tzelem Elokim. The Tzelem that I'm talking about here is an image of above, not Hashem's image. And that image is different from all animals. So what's Kidmutenu? Kidmutenu means in our form. Form? What form does Hashem have? No, it's not a real form. The form means, as Rashi brings down, lehavinu laskil, the ability to comprehend, the ability to study. What is that for? So the commentaries explain that the human being was given the power of bechira chofshit, or free will. He can make decisions. Animals don't have that power. Everything by an animal is instinct. That's how it's called, instinct. Human beings have instincts too, but they also have bechira chofshit. That's kidmutenu. The whole idea of betzalmenu kidmutenu is that the human being differs from everything else in this world, not only in his form and his image, but his capacity to make decisions. Once we understand what's going on now, we have a better idea of what's the story of the Nachash all about. The serpent, Chet Adam Arishon committing a sin, rebelling against God. Right away he receives one command, he can't even keep one. How did he fall for it? The whole story, the reason the Torah tells us this story is because it contains the challenge of all humanity. The Nachash is a semel of the Yetzer Hara. The serpent symbolizes the evil inclination, the one that was created to challenge us, to get us to rebel against God's will. Otherwise, how are we going to ever get reward for our work? If everything is obvious and automatic, there has to be something to challenge us. That's the Nachash. The Nachash that existed back then is what we call today the Yetzer Hara. That's the whole story there, is to remind us there is a Nachash out there in the street. There is a Nachash in you. There's a Nachash after you at all times. Therefore, the human being will always have to make a decision, will always have the choice of listening to the Nachash and running away from his responsibilities, from his job, from his mission, or being a real partner in the creation, which is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to be. The story of Cain and Hevel, where Cain murders Hevel, the story of the generation of the Mabul the story of Dora Palaga, which we'll talk about next week, the story of Az Yuchal Likro B'Shem Hashem. There's an episode or a period in the history in Parashat Bereishit where the Torah describes that at some point man began to worship idols. All these incidents, what are they recorded for? They're all incidents of failure. Humans have failed. They've turned against God. They've followed their evil inclination. All of these incidents are mentioned, recorded in the Torah to remind us, yes, human beings can fail. They have failed. And they were so close to the beginning. It's incredible. But yes, the powerful Yetzer Hara is always after us. And man can fail. Now, since man can fail, and since he always has the ability to choose between right and wrong because of his free will, he needs to have help. He needs to have help on how to make the decisions. So what did we say earlier? That help comes about in Horaot Yatzran, instructions, a manual of instructions of what to do. There needs to be something. What do we do? Who do we follow? Goyim receives 7 mitzvot. Am Yisrael later on receives 613 mitzvot. What's the purpose of the mitzvot? Not only to give us direction, but to remind us we're not here for a picnic, we're not here to have fun. This is called in the Kabbalah Olam HaAsiyah. This is the world of action. Action has to take place. Things have to be done. The world is incomplete. It's incomplete. Hashem completed the world. He completed His share, His part. The rest we have to complete. Completing it by way of performing mitzvot. So we are therefore here for a reason. What is that reason? To do the will of Hashem, not to do our personal will. And when human beings fail, it's usually because they're doing what their will is, not what Hashem's will is. Very simple. They have basically followed the advice of the Yetzer instead of looking at what the Torah says, or if we're talking about a goy, looking at what their obligations are, the 7 mitzvot b'nei Noach. If the Torah is so important, if we need all these instructions, then the next obvious question is, then why didn't we receive the Torah at the very beginning? Why does HaKadosh Baruch Hu wait for more than 2,400 years to give the Torah to Am Yisrael? Later on, give it right away. This is a whole lecture in itself, but I'll tell you briefly what's involved here. If you read Parashat Bereishit, Parashat Noach, Parashat Lech Lecha, and on and on and on, until you reach Yaakov Avinu, you will find that there is a filtering system going on here. According to the Kabbalah, good and evil got mixed up after the sin of Adam Arishon. Good and evil got mixed up. The concepts got all mixed up. Nothing is clear anymore. Okay. Not only did the concepts of good and evil get mixed up, not only is there now a lack of clarity, and we definitely need our instructions, but also in the human beings, in the neshamot that are now being born, there's this combination of good and evil. And because there's all this combination of good and evil, it is not possible to give the Torah just yet. Because the chances of fulfilling 613 would be very, very difficult. Very difficult. Look at what happened to Dora Mabul, Dora Palaka. You just can't give the Torah. Too much evil around. Hashem says, I'm going to need to filter all the evil that has formed. And little by little, from every generation, He removes the best candidate. Noach is the best candidate in his generation. But not all of Noach's children are good candidates. Shem is the best one. And eventually, who is born from Shem? Abraham Avinu. But Abraham Avinu is also not the best candidate. Not yet. Why not? He also has a little bit of the pesolet, a little bit of the unrefined nitzotzot sparks, let's call them, in him. How could I say that? Well, just look at who his father was. Terach. Not the best man back then. But Abraham Avinu is a big tzaddik. But a little bit of that pesolet goes down to his children. Who receives the pesolet from Abraham Avinu? Yishmael. Filtered out through and by way of Yishmael. Who receives all the good of Abraham Avinu? Yitzhak. Is Yitzhak ready for Torah? No. Who was his mother? Rivka. Sarah. Who was his wife? Rivka. Who are their children? Esav and Yaakov. One has the psolet, Esav, because of it's coming from Rivka. Who's Rivka's brother? Lavan. Who's Lavan's father? Betuel. The psolet coming from that direction. It's only when we come to Yaakov that the psolet is filtered out. And it's through Yaakov's children that it's further refined, but not ready yet. We still have to get them through Egypt. Put them through slavery. And that slavery is what prepares the Jewish neshama to receive the Torah mitzvot. They were servants to Paro, now they can be definitely servants to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So this whole process of filtering the bad from the good is very necessary before the Torah can be given to a nation that will say Na'aseh v'nishma, whatever Hashem says.
Rabbi Yaakov, Leah and Rachel came from, so there's a bad...
No, if they were his zivug, they contained a high concentration of good in them. And you saw from Rivka, the chesed that she was doing, that she came out to give the water from the well to Eliezer. The high concentration of good combines with high concentration of good. The zivugim, as we'll talk about later on, in order for them to be successful, they have to both have certain similarities. And I'll talk about that a little bit later on, what those similarities are. So anyway, so all the bad is filtered out. The rabbis tell us what will happen in the future. In the future there will also be bad. And if there will be a lot of bad, a lot of evil in the world, there is a risk that Chas v'Shalom, we may have to go through a big mabul, like back then. Hashem says not to worry, that will never happen. Because at a later point there's always going to be Torah around. And that Torah will be so powerful that will protect the world from destruction. Mabul once, no more. Not only because Hashem swore that He will not bring a mabul, we still have mabulim. I mean, we still have hurricanes, and we still have earthquakes, and we still have puranyot. We still have major disasters, but they're local. They're not global. Hashem says, I'm still going to have local disasters because I need to awaken people. I need to send a signal. But on a global level, no, there's going to be Torah. So even though there will be a lot of evil, there will also be Torah. At that point, the Torah will protect. In the end of days, which is our generation, commentaries explain that there's going to be a tremendous concentration of evil. Why? So the Zohar says because the generation of Sdom v'Amorah, the generation of the Mabul, are going to come back reincarnated. You want to have an idea what Sdom v'Amorah was? Go to West Hollywood. Very simple. If you ever were wondering what they looked like, go to Melrose. They probably looked very similar. Yeah, I'm not exaggerating. Their interests, their behavior, very similar, probably very similar. Why is this happening now, right before Mashiach comes? So the Maharal Miprag says, before we build something, we have to destroy the old structure. Kadosh Baruch Hu is about to rebuild the world. He's about to bring back the Beit HaMikdash, to restore everything the way it was. In order for that to happen, there has to be a destruction of all the bad that's there, all that which is corrupt. So all this corruption that we're seeing, all the evil, is all being put into one generation. All of that has to be stronger now because it's the end, because there's so much more of it. It's like Hashem piling it all up. Let me get rid of it. Right? It's there. Piling it all up and removing it. Evil, in its most intense form, is displayed in three ways. Kin'at, ha'ava, v'kavod. Jealousy, desire, and the pursuit of kavod, of honor. And if you read this Parashat, Bereishit and Noach, you will find that the most important incidents, Cain and Hevel, was kin'ah, was jealousy. Dor HaMabul, the generation of the flood, was ta'ava, the desire. And Dor HaPalaga was kavod, the generation that built the tower. These three are the most destructive, and that is why the rabbis tell us, they can drive you crazy, they can remove you from this world. And these are the three that are seen in these parashiyot, because they're very, very bad, and they're very destructive, as we can see the consequences of what they led to. However, we should not lose sight of another very important characteristic, called kfiyut tova. Kfiyut tova means to be ungrateful. Adam HaRishon, for some reason, listened to his wife. His wife, for some reason, listened to the Nachash. Okay. They fell for it. What happened over here? Hashem told them very clearly not to eat from the Etz Hadat. How do you fall for it? Now, and because they fell for it, HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives a very interesting punishment to Adam. You, man, you're going to have to sweat to earn a living. You, woman, you'll have a hard time raising children, and the childbirth would be difficult. And every month you'll have another unique difficulty. What's the relationship between what they did to what they're getting? And the Nachash, that's the biggest puzzle of all. You'll eat dirt all your life. You'll have all the food you want because you're eating dirt. No problem with parnasah. No problem with livelihood. What's going on over here? There's a problem here of kfiyut tovah, ungratefulness. Adam was ungrateful. How do we know he was ungrateful? Who does he blame for eating the fruit? She told me. She told me. She made me do it. She's there to help you. She's there to support you. How do you blame her? Blame yourself. There's a lack of being grateful here to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for everything that He has given him. Adam HaRishon did not say thank you. Adam HaRishon did not appreciate everything that was given to him. And because of the ungratefulness in him, he did not pay attention to what he was told. Oh yeah? Hashem says, I need you to remember me. So I'm going to therefore force you to remember me. You're going to have a hard time with parnasah. You're going to have to look up to me. You're going to have to pray. You're going to have to call on to me. It's not going to come easy to you. Al magash al kesef, as we say on a silver platter. You're going to sweat. You're going to work hard because I want to have a relationship with you. I want you to listen to me. I want you to turn to me. Chava, also. Children, min hashamayim. She ate from the fruit. Children are also fruits. It's not going to come easy to you. I want you to remember me. I want you to remember that I'm the one that gives children. It's not automatic. I want you to turn to me. I want you to look to me. I want you to pray to me. Also, maintaining a relationship. Remembering that Kadosh Baruch Hu is responsible for everything that we have. Now we will understand what happened with Cain and Hevel. Kadosh Baruch Hu refuses the offering of Cain and accepts the offering of Hevel. The Torah does not say why. It just says Hashem accepted the offering of Hevel and refused the offering of Cain. Why? So if you look at the Pasukim there, you can bring me a Chumash. Kadosh Baruch Hu wants us to thank Him for everything that He has given us. Kadosh Baruch Hu wants us to remember that everything is from Him. That is why the first fruit in Eretz Yisrael, the Bikurim, we bring to the Bet HaMikdash. That is why the firstborn, the son, is holy. That is why from the very first grains we give terumah. To remember that it's all from Hashem and to give Him thanks. By Cain it says, Vayim miketz yamim, vayadeh Cain mipri adama minchar Adonai. In the end of days, Cain remembered to bring a gift. By Hevel it says, from the first ones, he didn't wait miketz yamim. Later on he decided, I'm going to bring Hashem too. The very first fruits Hevel brought. And not only the very first, the very best. Cain waited a long time and did not necessarily bring from the very best either. But there's something else. The commentators explain, Cain brought him in Hashem. This is a gift from me to you. What do you mean, a gift from you to me? Everything is mine. Cain was not acknowledging in his behavior that this is only Hashem, that I should be thankful, that I should first think of Him. And that is why Hashem refused him. Kfiyut tovah, ungratefulness. That is what is seen in the very beginning of Parashat Bereishit. A very important characteristic that we shouldn't overlook. The Nachash, therefore, is punished very seriously, very severely. You're going to have dirt. You're going to only eat dirt. What kind of a punishment is that? That's great. That's a blessing. Wherever he goes, he has food. Hashem does not want him to turn to Him to ask for food. The lions, the cubs, are asking Hashem for their food. All animals turn to Hashem to ask for food. The Nachash never turns to Hashem because it always has food. Plenty of it. Plenty of dirt. Why? Because Hashem doesn't want to speak to him anymore. Completely excommunicated. Very serious punishment indeed. Whereas with Adam and Chava, Kadosh Baruch Hu wants to have a relationship. Hashem wants to have a relationship with every human being. Hashem wants us to turn to Him. Hashem wants us to be grateful. However, why shouldn't they be able to eat from Etz Hadat? Why did Kadosh Baruch Hu tell them, don't eat from this tree? Everything else is okay. Off limits. What's wrong with knowing? Etz Hadat? Great. Anybody want to suggest what's wrong with eating from Etz Hadat? So you might say, okay, it was a test. No. Hashem really, the rabbis tell us, eventually intended to give Adam and Chava the opportunity to eat from the Etz Hadat and to have the Dat. But there is a very important point here. Not everything is for us to know. It is not possible for us to comprehend everything. And one may just begin to think, wait a minute, what was before Hashem? What happened before Bereishit? We might begin to explore, to investigate things that are beyond us, that the human mind is incapable of understanding. Etz Hadat is dangerous, therefore. Kadosh Baruch Hu gives it to us in the right time as much as we need to know, and we have no permission to investigate that which is beyond us. Perhaps that is an explanation of why the Etz Hadat was chosen to be off limits in the beginning. Not everything is for us to know, and not everything is possible for us to know. So we spoke a little bit about the disobedience of Cain, Adam and Chava. Now what happens? Disobedience will occur in the future too. We said Adam has Bchira Chofshit. HaKadosh Baruch Hu Makdim Refuah L'Makaz, we say in Hebrew, he already prepared the remedy. Because in turning to Cain, Cain felt bad. Now he's going out in the diaspora, he's removed from Hashem. What now? And Hashem tells him, listen, Lapetach Hatat Rovetz, which in other words means there will always be a Yetzer Hara. If you want to follow him, he's always going to be around. But you should know, in case you did, and you want to change, you want to come back to me, Im Tetiv Se'et. If you will change your ways and you will become a better person, I will carry your sin. I will forgive you. What Hashem is communicating to us here, not just to Cain, is that if one ever makes a mistake, one ever sins, one ever is disobedient, he can correct it, he can repair it, he can always come back. So that is important, that was definitely necessary, and Hashem is preparing that from the very beginning. Knowing in advance, human beings will fail, human beings will make mistakes, they will be disobedient, they will rebel, they will commit sins. Im Tativ Se'et, if you will change your ways, I'm willing to carry it, I'm willing to forgive. The next point in the Parashat is something which I briefly discussed on Shabbat. For those of you who were not here, I will mention it again briefly. And everything that HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates, Hashem says, Kitov, it's good. What do you mean Kitov? What's good? What's good to us is not necessarily good for everybody, because Tov is a Yahasis. It all depends who we're talking about. Something may be good for me, may not be good for someone else. When Hashem says Kitov, Hashem's Tov means it's complete, it's perfect, it serves a purpose. The Mekarev Umevila Tachlit. I created, Hashem says this is Tov because it serves the ultimate purpose that I had in mind in creating the world. That's what Tov means. It serves the ultimate purpose. But it doesn't say Tov an Adam, on the creation of the human being. Why not? Because when the human being is born, we don't know yet if he's good. Time will tell what he makes of himself because of his free will. As we said before, the human being is unpredictable because he has free will. He can make decisions, he can make choices. Only when he will leave this world will we know whether he was good or bad. Not when he's born. All babies are cute. What will come out of that baby, we don't know yet. When we are at the funeral of the individual, then we can say he was good or he was not good. So in the beginning, we don't know if man is good or not. However, from time to time, HaKadosh Baruch Hu asks us how we're doing. And that is insinuated in the word Ayeka. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking for Adam after the sin. And he says, Ayeka, where are you? Well, Hashem doesn't know where Adam is. He was hiding, it says. Hashem says, Ayeka, where are you? So some commentaries explain that word Ayeka is Hashem's call to every one of us all the time. We're here in this world. Where are you? What have you accomplished? What have you done with yourself? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is always asking us, constantly reminding us. And now we come to the biggest question of all. Hashem is asking us, Bemet, what have we accomplished? What have we done with ourselves? And the answer may be, unfortunately, many times, not too much. Not many people accomplish in the 60, 70, 80 years that they've been allotted what they're supposed to do. And the question is, why not? 3 answers. Answer number 1 is a very famous mashal story that goes as follows. There was once an individual who was struggling for parnasah, having a hard time, and he tells his wife, you know what, I decided on a plan. I received by inheritance a map in some faraway island. There's a lot of money to be made because there's diamonds everywhere. And I have this map, and I'm going to get on a boat, and I'm going to get there, and I'm going to bring a lot of diamonds home. And hopefully all those diamonds will help us for the rest of our lives. Great plan. Go. And they part. The man arrives at the island. He sees that there's diamonds everywhere. He immediately grabs a big bag and begins to load the diamonds. All of a sudden he sees the natives making fun of him. What are you making fun of me? He says, diamonds. It's worthless. What are you wasting your time picking this up? This is worthless. Then what's important here? What's important in this island? Potatoes. We don't have any. And if you are able to grow potatoes, you're going to make a lot of money. Potatoes? Okay. He empties out his bag and starts growing potatoes. And that's all he does all the time, growing potatoes. Makes some money there. And the time comes, and he sees from a distance, oh, the boat has come to take him back. Okay. He grabs all his potatoes, rushes to the boat, gets on, and Baruch Hashem, he's happy. He's got a lot of potatoes. The voyage took several weeks to come home. He gets home. They all come to greet him, his wife, his children. And all of a sudden, they smell something rotten coming from his bags. What did you bring? Where are all the diamonds? What is the smell coming from? And he shows them what he brought. Rotten, stinky potatoes. He says, what's this for? This is a treasure, he tells them. What treasure? 10 cents a pound. Whatever. I don't know how much they cost these days. Right? Cheap stuff. Potatoes, that's what you went away for so long. That's what you left off. This is what you... But where are the diamonds? And he all of a sudden realizes the terrible mistake that he made. Potatoes were worth something back then. They're worthless here. And he begins to cry. And he goes to bed. He's so tired. Everybody was disappointed. Everybody was upset at him. The wife, in the meantime, wants to clean the bags because of all the rotten potatoes. She throws out all the potatoes, and all of a sudden, as she's throwing out all the rotten potatoes, she notices a few little diamonds. When he was emptying his bag of diamonds to put in potatoes, he didn't empty them all. A few remained at the bottom. And from the very few diamonds that Baruch Hashem remained in the bag, they were able to live for a number of years. What's the moral of the story? I think it's obvious. We come to this world, a distant land, an island. We're going to make, B'ezrat Hashem, a lot of money, mitzvot, diamonds. It's all everywhere. It's very easy to pick them up. But all of a sudden people tell us, mitzvot? You got to make money. You got to go to college. You got to work hard. You got to get yourself a car. You got to do this. Potatoes. And we throw out the mitzvot. We fill our bags with all this junk. We come upstairs. It all stinks. They tell us, this is what you brought us. We don't need this here. Here we need mitzvot. That's what we sent you for to begin with. So man loses track. He thinks that this is what's important. In reality, that's totally unimportant there. What's important there is the real diamonds, mitzvot. So reason number one, people are distracted. People forget what's really important. That's not important at all. This is nothing. It's junk, shtuyot. What's really important are the mitzvot. A second reason people do not complete what they're supposed to complete is another little story. A young couple once got married. They say it was a Yemenite couple. The Yemenite couple got married, and from the Hatunah they went home. How did they go home? They had a donkey. So the husband says, you know what? I'm going to let my wife ride. And I'm going to pull the donkey along. As he's walking down the street, he hears people laughing at him. Look, from the very beginning, right after his wedding, he's already giving his wife everything she wants. He's already letting her. So he hears that, yeah, that's not fair. Why should I let her ride the donkey? He makes her go down, and he rides the donkey. He goes down a little bit further, then he sees people cursing him. Look at that guy, he has no pity for his wife. He's riding the donkey, and his wife is dragging along. He says, you know what? They have a point too. So he makes his wife ride the donkey together with him. Somehow they fit. They walk down another mile. Now he hears people making fun of them. He says, they have no pity for the donkey. The two of them riding on the poor donkey. What's going on with them? So now he decides, you know what? They're right too. He decides to put the donkey on top of him. And he goes down another mile. Then he sees people making fun. And look at that donkey carrying another donkey. The point, the moral is here, very simple. People do what everybody wants them to do, and not what Hashem wants. People are influenced by society, by the pressures of society. What is he going to say? Well, this, that. Do what Hashem wants of you. Don't pay attention to what people are saying. Otherwise, you're going to have 10 opinions. 10 opinions or more of what's right and what's wrong. Do what Hashem does. People are not necessarily paying attention to what Hashem wants. That's another reason they don't accomplish what they should be accomplishing. And the third explanation is we forget we have a neshama. We forget we have a neshama and we're focused on our body. And that is why the Torah tells us that as soon as Adam and Chava ate from the Etz Hadat, what did they discover? Kiem erumim, that they were naked. So what? What's the big deal? Just ask the Swedes and the Norwegians and the Germans in those beaches over there. Is there anything wrong with being without your clothes? Why were they so ashamed? Why are people ashamed to be naked? Why? Very simple. The reason is because deep down, when a person sees his nakedness, it reminds him that he's an animal. He has to go to the bathroom like an animal. He has parts of him are just like the animal. That reminds him. We forget about the neshama that we have in ourselves. All we focus is about the animal. And we'd rather ignore that. We'd rather think, no, we're not an animal. But in fact, this is half of us, as I said before. This is a part of us. We're partly animal, and people, unfortunately, focus on that part much more than focusing on the neshama. We forget we have a neshama. We're not just animals. 50% of us is chelek eloka mimal. And if we would remember that, we would remember that we have some other mission other than just eating, sleeping, resting, which is what an animal does. How are we different than an animal? Because of the neshama. But we forget that. The last few points that I want to cover is about the creation of the world happening in 6 days, not in millions of years, and about zivugim. Rabbis tell us that the creation of the world happened b'tzivyono. When HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, it was ready-made. It did not take millions of years old. The trees were formed right away with the fruit on them. Adam Rishon was 20 years old. He was not a little infant. Everything was created b'tzivyono. Maybe diamonds would take millions of years in the natural process, but HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world b'tzivyono, ready-made. So when scientists claim it can't be a few thousand years, it's millions of years, the simple answer is the world was created b'tzivyono. It was created old, with the minerals, with everything we need. And our tradition says that every day of the 6 days, or the 7 days, was a 24-hour day. I know that there are some who claim every one of those days was 1,000 years or more. But our tradition is that no, they were normal days. Vayi erev, vayi voker, how do you have a day? When you have night and day. When you have the rotation of the earth on its axis. How long does that take? 24 hours. So our tradition has said that those were 24-hour days. The world is 5,765 years from the very beginning. Even though they have discovered through various methods things that are very old, like carbon-14 dating, not only is it not completely accurate, it works making certain assumptions that the decay of the carbon-14 was equal over all this time. But if we had a mabul, then nothing was equal. Things were very different before. Things became very much distorted and contaminated through the mabul, so you can't compare something that is before the mabul to something that was after the mabul. You can use carbon-14 to date something from the time of Cleopatra in Egypt, and Yaakov Avinu maybe, and maybe even Abraham Avinu, but not something that was before the mabul. It's contaminated. The mabul was very powerful forces. We will see next week. So even the most accurate method of dating, carbon-14, cannot help us too much. Besides, we know, we have a tradition, that everything was b'tzivyono. Everything was created ready-made. So those items that are supposed to be very old are not old at all, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu created them old. So what happened to the dinosaurs? Okay, dinosaurs did exist. They found fossils, and today's fossils are pretty much almost intact and complete. We have no problem with that. Hashem created many animals that eventually died. Why did they die? Why did Hashem allow them to become extinct? Only fish were given the blessing of Pru'urvu because we hunt them so much. Other animals were either hunted, died from disease, from famine, or from the Mabul. Many died in the Mabul. Because after all, Noach only took 2 of each, of the unclean ones. And there were not too many dinosaurs, even though there were a lot. Right? So, through a combination of reasons, as we will see next week, if I remember, I'll talk about the 2 additional floods that occurred. One during the days of Enosh, and one during the Dora Panaga, where 2/3 of the world was inundated, and another time where 1/3 of the world was inundated. Because of all these forces of nature, the flood, the inundations, something else happened. The continents drifted. Hashem did not create a jigsaw puzzle of pieces. Hawaii here, New Zealand here, Africa like this. I mean, what kind of a shape of an earth is this? It was all beautifully round. It was all symmetrical. Hashem makes everything perfect. Everything is round. The moon is round, Jupiter is round, and so was the earth. The earth was within the globe. And the water was around it. But all these forces of nature were so powerful that they caused, as scientists admit today, a drift in the continents. Last but not least, a very important part in Parashat Bereishit discusses zivugim. Also a very big lecture in itself, several lectures about zivugim, but I'll briefly touch on it. How is Chava created? From Adam. She was not there by herself. From Adam. Hashem took a part of Adam and created her. So the Kabbalah says every zivug in the future will be, a true zivug will be exactly the same way. The wife will be taken from the man. It's all one neshama. They will be split into two halves. The man will come down usually first, the woman will follow. Being zachu, if they are meritorious, Hashem brings them together. Hashem is the only one who's mezavek zivugim because only He, no angel, no mazal, knows who belongs with who. He knows where the other half is of this puzzle. And the rabbis call this other half, the woman, Avedah. She's lost. Until we find her, she's lost. She doesn't know where she belongs. He doesn't know where she is. She's an Avedah. And it's up to the Baal Avedah to look. That is why the man has to look for the woman, and not for the woman to look for the man. And how do they know that they found each other? That's a secret. You have to see me later for that. Now, I'll tell you briefly. There are many ways to know, but one way that is brought down is when the mind and heart are both convinced that this is it. Sometimes the mind says, yes, it makes sense. Sometimes the heart says, yes, it makes sense. When the mind and the heart are comfortable, you have no reason to doubt it. People have hesitations for all sorts of reasons. But if the mind and the heart are comfortable, they've reached a certain comfort level where they don't have a real opposition to this, that's a good sign. There are other ways to know. But this is basically, in short, a quick way to determine after a number of days if this is it or not. The mind and heart are both in sync. Yes, this makes sense. This is better than anything before. Anyway, we need a tremendous amount of zechuyot that we don't make a mistake. Because people today are misled by how much money does he make, what car does he drive. So we need a lot of clarity to look away from all these shtuyot and to focus on what's really important. So one needs to pray that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should guide him and that he should not choose the wrong person. Just because, he makes a good living, he's going to take care of me. No, that's not enough. There has to be good chemistry. Because we want it to last. Not for 1 year, for many more years. So there has to be a good feeling. The heart and mind have to both agree. This woman, this zivug, is an ezer kenegdo, the Torah says. She complements him, she will help him, she will support him. Wherever he is lacking, she will fill. Wherever she's lacking, he will fill in. He cannot be without her. That is why she was created from him. To remind the human being, you need her, you can't stay single. You need to have this helper. She will fill in where you can't. She will bake, she will cook, she will have the kids. A man cannot do everything. She's going to be an ezer kenegdo. Man is therefore reminded he can't do everything. He needs lo tov v'yot adam levado. Man cannot be by himself, cannot be single. And what will they accomplish together? Vayule basar echad. They will become one unit. That is what they should concentrate, and that's what they should focus. That's what they should want. If a couple has the desire to succeed, to become one, they have to be willing to let go of the parents' home and not allow the parents to interfere and to make trouble. Focus on each other. Pru have children. That's the purpose of marriage too. And hishtalmut. That is how each one will become stronger. Before we're married, we're half. We don't have our maximum potential. We get married, we settle down. If it's the right zivug, they will complement each other, they will become one unit, they will both become stronger, and they will receive the beracha as a result. When the two who belong with each other stay together, they receive the beracha. The Shekhinah resides in their home. People have had problem with the lack of equality between men and women in Judaism. They make a mistake. We're not talking about equality here. Of course they're equal. The problem is that the two are not identical. Can a man give birth? No. That belongs to the woman. Are they equal? Well, not really. But they are. They are equal in their mission, in their importance, but they're not identical. People confuse identical and equal. Women and men cannot be identical. They just are not. Each one has a unique role. Each one is special. Each one contributes to the relationship. And it's the combination of the two that makes for a successful relationship. The two need each other. So they are equal. They are equally important. But they have different roles to play. What can we do? A woman is more sensitive. A man uses more his mind. And Hashem says, I know what? I want the emotion, the sensitivity of the woman together with the logic of the man. This is a great combination. Man cannot do everything. We need the two of them. That is why a marriage, or the right two people, is very important. Because if they're not right for each other, it's disaster. Again, we need to pray to be able to be zocheh, that it should be a smooth relationship. Just want to finish with what the rabbis tell us, that Adam was created in the 6th day, and it happened in steps and stages. Different parts of his body were formed until he got up. This represents the last 1,000 years of the 6,000 years. In this last 1,000 years, when Mashiach is going to come, man is being formed. He's getting up. And as soon as he gets up and receives the da'at, that is when Mashiach will arrive. We're holding at that point right now. When man is finally getting up. When the gates of wisdom, as the Zohar says, have opened up. And all of a sudden we have all this knowledge, this information all over the world through the internet and all this technology. The gates of wisdom have opened up. So right now we are eating from the Etz Hadat, which we could have eaten a lot earlier had we had the zechut to receive all this information. Hashem is giving it to us all now. And this is nothing compared to the da'at that we will have when Mashiach comes. As the Prophet says, at that point it will be kamayl layam mechasim. The knowledge of Hashem will be so great and so vast as the waters covering the seas. B'ezrat Hashem, we should be zocheh to see that very soon.